Good morning, everybody out there in YouTube land. Say hello to all my peeps in the chat room and all my lurkers and all the folks that'll be viewing this later on the Memorex. Glad to have you with me today. It's a pretty day here in Indiana, sun's shining and leaves are just barely twitching on the tree, so there ain't much of a breeze blowing. I think it's in the 70s out there this morning and shouldn't get a whole lot hotter today, I don't think. It's a very pleasant day. I want to remind everybody that on Wednesday afternoon at 2 o'clock, I'm going to do a special show with Barry Littleton. We'll be doing the news at noon, and then we'll come back at 2 o'clock with Barry. And I want everybody to spread the word on that. We want a good, full chat room and lots of questions. Barry loves to answer everybody's questions that come in. If you want to know a little bit more about him, you can look him up on YouTube or on Facebook. He's an alien experiencer, and he is a wealth of information. So I hope everybody will join us and enjoy chatting with Barry a little bit. It has been a wild, wicked weekend with the news. My goodness gracious. I've did a couple shows over the weekend with breaking news and stuff that was going on. It'd like to wear me out. But we'll just jump on into it here and get going with this. The first one that I'm going to bring to you is how a mistaken U.S. air-led attack could end the Syria ceasefire. And this is off of time.com. And it says, the attack killed dozens of Syrian regime soldiers and enraged Russia. The future of a partial ceasefire in Syria's civil war plunged even deeper into doubt after an airstrike by U.S.-led international military coalition mistakenly killed dozens of Syrian government troops on Saturday. The attack further undermines an already delicate truce agreement that called for coordinated U.S.-Russian air campaigns against ISIS and other jihadist groups following a week-long reduction in violence, which was set to be completed by September the 19th. The accord negotiated by the U.S. and Russians was less than a week old when the air raid hit Syrian regime troops in Deir al-Zor, a remote city in eastern Syria where government forces and civilians are surrounded by Islamic State fighters. The Russian Defense Ministry said 62 Syrian soldiers were killed and more than 100 others wounded in the strike. The U.S. military Central Command said international coalition forces thought they were attacking ISIS fighters and then halted airstrikes after they were informed by Russia that Syrian troops may have been killed. The killings have infuriated the Russian government, which launched a large-scale campaign of airstrikes in support of its ally, the Assad regime, nearly a year ago. Russia called an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council in response to Saturday's attack, which is sure to complicate talks over the fate of the already fragile ceasefire. Some Russian officials have gone so far as to insinuate that the attack was deliberate. It is very strange to believe that it was a coincidence, said Vitaly, ambassador to the United Nations. According to the TASS, that's TASS news agency on Sunday, the time of the airstrike, as well as other aspects of the situation, point to the possibility that it might have been a provocation. U.S. ambassador to the UN, Samantha Power, accused Russia on Saturday of cheap point scoring and grandstanding. The international coalition attack in war on Saturday also illustrates the complexities of American strategy in Syria, where the U.S. is pursuing both military campaign against ISIS and a diplomatic effort with Russia aimed at de-escalating the conflict between Assad regime and its rebel opponents. The U.S. called on Assad to step down following the 2011 popular uprising against his regime, an initially peaceful revolt that spiraled into the current civil war, which has left nearly 500,000 people dead. Deals call on Russia to restrain the Assad regime from launching airstrikes which have devastated opposition-held areas of Syria. I think the ceasefire agreement is just going to collapse, says Lena Khatib, East and North Africa program at Chatham House in London. In the end, all these attempts at finding short-term measures to try to lessen the extent of violence in Syria at the moment are not the result of a solid political agreement at the international level. We are only seeing half-hearted, half-baked initiatives taken by the U.S. and Russia, with the latest ceasefire being just the most recent example, she added in a phone interview. The Russian-U.S. agreement produced relatively calm in Syria last week, but the truce appeared to be fraying even before the deaths of the Syrian soldiers. Since Friday, activists with Syrian opposition reported renewed shelling by both regime and Russian forces elsewhere in Syria, including the reported use of incendiary in Homs, Homs, province on Saturday, in a separate violation of terms of the ceasefire. The Syrian regime to deny access to humanitarian aid convoys bound for the besieged rebel-held section of the city of Aleppo. Fighting was also reported on the outskirts of Damascus. Australia confirmed on Sunday that its warplanes were involved in the ill-fated coalition operation on Saturday. In a statement, the Australian Defense Department echoed the U.S. military, saying Australia would never intentionally target a known Syrian military unit or actively support Daesh ISIS. It's unknown exactly what role the Australian aircraft played in the attack or whether other nations' planes were involved. The Assad regime maintains its control of an isolated island of territory in Deir ez-Zor, where it's estimated 100,000 residents are surrounded by Islamic State-controlled territory. The United Nations began airdropping food into the enclave in January. The city lies on the strategic route linking ISIS territory in Syria and neighboring Iraq, including the Iraqi city of Mosul, the largest urban area controlled by the jihadists. The Syrian military initially said that ISIS was able to gain ground following the mistaken airstrike, which reportedly took place near the Deir al-Zor airport. Syrian state later reported that government troops reclaimed the area, killing dozens of ISIS fighters in the process. Separately, ISIS officials, media, arm claimed that its forces shot down a Syrian warplane over the city. The strike was the first known attack by U.S.-led forces on the force of the Assad regime. The Obama administration threatened to use force against the regime in 2013 in response to a chemical weapon attack outside of Damascus that killed an estimated 1,400 people, but backed down following a Russian-backed international agreement to destroy Syria's known chemical weapon stockpile. The U.S.-led international military coalition, which has been waging war on ISIS in both Iraq and Syria since 2014, acknowledged that the deadly airstrike, saying that it may have mistakenly struck a Syrian military unit and destroyed Syrian military vehicles. The coalition also said it carried out 3 separate strikes in Deir al-Zor on the same day that destroyed 7 of ISIS's oil tanker trucks and damaged 8 supply routes. Syrian opposition activists have recently criticized the United States for indirectly assisting the Assad government by coordinating with Russia to target jihadist groups while allowing the regime to continue its deadly airstrikes in rebel-controlled territory. Some analysts suggested the location of the strike in Deir al-Zor suggested the raid could have been a rare, even unprecedented attempt to assist regime forces battling ISIS in the area. The U.S. offers air support to Kurdish-led militia battling ISIS in northern Syria and has sent assistance to some rebel groups opposed to both ISIS and the regime, but has not been known to coordinate with Assad's forces in the past. U.S. airstrikes on ISIS in such close proximity to regime positions are unusual. Arguably, constitute close air support for regime, tweeted Faisal Itani, a senior fellow at Atlantic Council in Washington. In July, human rights groups raised alarm over U.S.-led airstrikes that reportedly killed more than 100 civilians over a span of weeks near the Syrian city of Manbij, The coalition helped Kurdish-led militias retake city from ISIS in August. Since 2014, at least 1,595 civilians have been killed in Syria by U.S.-led coalition airstrikes, according to the independent London-based monitoring group Air Wars. So there's that article on it. Now, all these URLs are, of course, in the description of the video if you want to take a look at them yourself and look up any links or anything that might be on these. The next one is off telegraph.co.uk. Waiting for it to come up here. Little hamster running in the wheel, I guess. There we go. American commando forced away from U.S.-backed Syrian rebels. And this one is from 4:14 yesterday afternoon. It says, appears to show U.S. commando fleeing Syrian town under a barrage of abuse and insults hurled at them by fighters from the American-backed Free Syrian Army group. Video appears to be first evidence of U.S. Special Forces cooperating with Turkish troops in their battle against Islamic State, ISIL. The incident illustrates the complex web of alliances and in Syria, where many of America's allies are fighting each other, and some rebel groups that receive U.S. support still harbor strong anti-American sentiment. The footage shows a crowd of rebels fighters in the town of Al-Rai near the Turkish border, which was captured from ISIL by Syrian rebel groups with the backing of Turkey. Turkey, which launched military insertion into Syria in late August, has been backing the FSA. The fighters scream anti-American chants as a column of pickup trucks carrying U.S. commandos drives away from them. Christian and Americans have no place among us, shouts one man in the video. They want to wage a crusader war to occupy Syria. Another man calls out the collaborators of America are dogs and pigs. They wage a crusade war against Syria and Islam. The U.S. troops are not wearing traditional uniform, but carry American weapons and are wearing a distinctive round helmet favored by the U.S. Special Forces. Another video shows the U.S. troops looking nonchalant and waving at the camera, even as some of the rebels tell them to leave. Charles Lister, a senior fellow in the Middle East Institute, said confrontation was sparked when FSA rebels accused the Americans of supporting the Kurdish militia known as People's Protection Units, YPG. Heated tempers and YPG relations aside, this was a big mistake by FSA, but it does go to show the diplomacy now required to make it work, he said. Turkey is vehemently opposed to the YPG and its FSA proximities, have fought with Kurdish fighters, even though they are in theory both U.S. allies committed to fighting together against ISIL. It was not clear if the confrontation in Al-Rai was spontaneous or ordered by the senior FSA figures or even their Turkish allies. The U.S. troops are believed to have been operating alongside Turkish forces in northern Syria. Video footage shows the American trucks sharing the road with Turkish tanks. A spokesman for U.S. Central Command said they were aware of the video and looking into the incident. So there's that information. And we'll get the next one up here. Off of get my tongue to work, awarenessact.com. 2 states declare state of emergency after gas pipeline leaks 250,000 gallons. While Native American protesters are facing arrest in North Dakota for blocking the construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline, a gas pipeline spill is currently unfolding in the South. The leak has prompted Alabama Governor Robert Bentley and Georgia Governor Nathan Deal to declare states of emergency. The Colonial Pipeline, which runs from Houston to New York, began leaking on September 9th, spilling 250,000 gallons of gasoline, or 6,000 barrels. The pipeline was built in 1962, and the current leak in Helena, Alabama is the largest leak Colonial Pipeline has experienced in 20 years, Reuters noted. AL.com reported that according to the Colonial Pipeline Company spokesperson Bill Berry, the pipeline could still be leaking. The leaking pipeline was shut down last Friday after the leak was discovered, but Berry said there may be additional gas still inside the pipeline. The leaking section of the pipeline hasn't been excavated yet due to safety precautions, so Berry said the condition of the pipeline and cause of the leak is still unknown. The leak is expected to drive up fuel prices across the Southeast, and governors of both Alabama and Georgia have declared official state of emergencies, preparing residents for fuel shortages. And now hundreds of employees and contract workers face health risks from inhaling vapor as they work overtime to clean up the spill, which the company says is contained to a mining retention pond. Or as AL.com reports, the leak was discovered at the inactive mine site by employees of the Alabama Surface Mining Commission. Fortunately, the company is taking a host of steps to mitigate potential damage. Crews have installed temporary plugs in the pipeline on either side of the spill location, and gasoline is being extracted from the affected section of pipeline at those blockage sites, AL.com explains. However, in the meantime, the government Georgia and Alabama have declared states of emergency, not due to the environmental concerns, but over the gas shortage that will result from the leak. Whether or not the spill will cause environmental damage remains to be seen, but as aging, inadequate infrastructure results in leakages of natural gas, radioactive material, and other chemicals across the country, one thing is clear. Americans may want to consider curbing their appetite for potentially harmful sources of energy. The reality of the situation is, it seems that people will never learn. Native Americans in North Dakota are fighting to keep oil pipeline out of sacred water, and it really makes you wonder what would happen if more people chose to stand up for the right thing. The next one that we have, get it to come up here. It's off of ABC News. Run, little hamster, run. Online this morning. Okay, this says 6 states facing possible gas shortage after the Colonial Pipeline spill. 6 states, Tennessee, Virginia, Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, and North Carolina, are facing possible gas shortages after a pipeline spill, officials said. The states have all declared states of emergency, citing concerns about fuel supply disruptions and disruption of gasoline in the wake of the Colonial Pipeline spill. The governor of North Carolina declared the state of emergency to help ensure that there will be adequate supplies of fuel across the state and prevent excessive fuel pricing. Contracts for wholesale gasoline rose about 2% Friday to $1.46 a gallon after rising 5% on Thursday. Long lines have quickly amassed at gas stations in the 6 states, and social media users took to their accounts to document chaos and dwindling gasoline supply in some cases. And then it says there is an image from Tennessee below, and it's got cars backed up in gas lines. And there's some comments there if you'd like to read those. And then the article goes on, says on September 9th, gasoline was discharged from underground 36-inch pipe near Birmingham, Alabama, and leaked into a nearby pond. The pipeline was shut down after the discovery of the leak. Approximately 230 gallons of gasoline and water have been recovered as of Friday afternoon, but the presence of explosive vapors is making the cleanup difficult. Recovery efforts are continuing 24 hours a day, focusing on remediation of contamination and restoration of pipeline services, the EPA said in a statement. Colonial Pipeline said Friday it doesn't expect to fully reopen its primary gasoline pipeline until next week. It is one of 2 major pipelines that connect more than 24 refineries in Texas and Louisiana with cities in the eastern U.S. The pipeline provides nearly 40% of the region's gasoline and usually runs at or near full capacity. So there's that information. The next one we have here is off Fox News, and it's about the explosion in New York City, believed to be intentional, mayor says, 29 injured. Authorities on Sunday vowed to bring to justice the person responsible for planting an explosive device in a New York City neighborhood, as officials downplayed the possibility of an international terror connection to the to the fiery Saturday night blast. All 29 people injured in the explosion, which happened on West 23rd Street in New York City's Chelsea neighborhood, had been released from the area hospitals by Sunday morning. Governor Andrew Cuomo said during a news conference, authorities were now squarely focusing on who placed the explosive device on West 23rd Street and a second unexploded device 4 blocks away. Whoever placed these bombs, we will find, and they will be brought to justice, period, Cuomo said. We will not allow these types of people and these types of threats to disrupt our life in New York. Officials did not believe New York blast had any connection to several pipe bombs found earlier Saturday, Cuomo said. He added there was no link to an explosive device found in July in Central Park. No evidence of international terrorism connection with this incident, but it is very, very early in the investigation and it's just starting, Cuomo said. The blast appeared to originate from construction toolbox in front of a building at around 8:30 p.m., a law enforcement official told the Associated Press. A garbage can was found mangled nearby. Less than 3 hours after the explosion, investigators located a pressure cooker inside a plastic bag at West 27th Street that was attached to wiring and a cell phone, a law enforcement official or source told Fox News. It was not clear what was inside the device. Police advised residents of the block where the pressure cooker was found to stay away from windows facing 27th Street. Cuomo said the device street and the device on 27th Street were both similar in design. Early Sunday, police said the pressure cooker had been removed from the area and will be taken to the department's firing range in the Bronx for further analysis. Pressure cooker bombs placed inside garbage cans were used by the terrorists who bombed the Boston Marathon in 2013. At this point, no individual or group has claim responsibility, Police Commissioner James P. O'Neill said on Sunday. Fox News was told there had been no prior intelligence suggesting Saturday's events may have been imminent. Witnesses said the explosion blew out the windows of businesses and scattered debris in the area. One witness told Fox News the explosion sent a big cloud of black smoke into the air as people ran from the scene. Another said a fireball shot into the air as a nearby building shook. Who lives near the blast said mirrors fell off his walls when the explosion occurred. I thought it might be a bomb just because it felt like one, Avedor told Fox and Friends. The blast happened in front of a residence for the blind near a major thoroughfare with many restaurants and a Trader Joe's supermarket. This is the nightmare scenario, one of the nightmare scenarios, Cuomo said, and your mind immediately goes to, was anyone hurt? Was anyone killed? And luckily, depending on how you look at it, 29 injuries, but no fatalities. Cuomo said in light of Saturday's incident, the city would deploy nearly 1,000 additional cops to National Guard troops to police bus terminals, airports, and subway stations. White House said President Barack Obama had been apprised of the explosion, which came hours after a pipe bomb exploded in Seaside Park, New Jersey. That blast occurred shortly before thousands of runners participated in a charity 5K race to benefit Marines and sailors. No injuries were reported. Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump described the incident as a bomb going off, and Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton said she had been briefed on bombings in New York and New Jersey. That one. The next one is off of the NewYorkPost.com. Waiting for it to come up here so we can read it. It says, there will be more. Chilling 9/11 call after Chelsea explosion. 9/11 caller issued a chilling warning moments after the Saturday night bomb that rocked Chelsea, saying there will be more. I'm looking at the explosion down the block. There will be more. The unidentified male caller threatened, law enforcement forces told the Post on Sunday. Behind the terrifying blast that injured 29 people remained on the loose, officials revealed similarities between the pressure cooker bomb that blew up on West 23rd Street, a similar undetonated device found on West 27th Street, and a pipe bomb that exploded hours earlier at the Jersey Shore. All three bombs were filled with old-school mobile flip phones as their targeting or triggering devices. And one source said officials suspect the same person planted the New York and New Jersey devices. On Sunday night, sources told CNN that surveillance footage showed a man dragging a duffel bag to the site of the explosion on West 23rd Street around 40 minutes before the blast occurred. Another video shows the same man wheeling around what appears to be the same duffel bag on West 27th Street about 10 minutes later, the sources said. The individuals can be seen placing the bag where the cops later found the unexploded bomb. After he walks away, the video shows two men removing a white garbage bag containing the pressure cooker and leaving it on the sidewalk. Investigators are trying to determine the relationship between the three men. A handwritten letter, a portion of which is in Arabic, was found inside the plastic bag that held the West 27th Street device, sources said. Meanwhile, a sketch artist was called in Sunday night to work with two witnesses who told cops they saw a man who was carrying a suitcase and seemed out of place on West 32nd Street about 30 minutes before the Chelsea blast, sources said. Both Manhattan bombs were similar in design to those used in the deadly 2013 Boston Marathon attacks, which were built according to instructions from Al-Qaeda's online Inspire magazine, sources said. In other developments, Mayor Bill de Blasio said bigger than ever number of New York PD cops would hit the streets in response to the bombing, and the UN General Assembly, where President Obama is set to speak Tuesday. Governor Andrew Cuomo said he was deploying an extra troopers and National Guard members across the state. Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton issued a statement strongly condemning the apparent terrorist attacks in New York and New Jersey and multiple stabbing at a mall in St. Cloud, Minnesota. A Manhattan woman said she called 911 after spotting the bomb that didn't explode in Chelsea, recalling what looked like a kid's science experiment near her home when a friend called with news of the blast. The bomb was taken to the New York PD firing range at Rodman's Neck in the Bronx, where it was blown up to dismantle it late Sunday afternoon, sources said. Evidence from both the New York and New Jersey bombings was being set for analysis at the FBI lab in Virginia, Cuomo said. Both of the Chelsea bombs were built with pressure cookers using Christmas lights as fuses. That method is the same one as brothers of try it again. That method is the same one that brothers Tamerlan and Dzaskar Tezmerev used, detonated near the finish line of the Boston Marathon on April the 15th, 2013, killing 3 people and wounding more than 260. But the Tezmerevs used parts from remote control cars as triggering devices and black powder from fireworks as an explosive fuel. In addition to cell phone triggers, Chelsea bombs, which were packed with nails and ball bearings, contained tannerite as explosive material, sources said. Tannerite is the brand name of a compound created in 1996 for use in exploding targets that produce water vapor and a thunderous boom when shot with a high-power rifle, according to the manufacturer's website. Explosives experts who examined the remains of the Chelsea blast believe the bomb was placed inside a dumpster that was torn apart and blown more than 130 feet across the street, sources said. The impact of the landing is believed to have bent some of the dumpster steel inward, sources said. That mangling had initially led investigators to suspect a bomb had been placed outside the container. In addition to vowing that more bombs would be used to strike the Big Apple, the 9/11 caller warned that attackers would soon open fire with guns, a source said. Officials were investigating the validity of the caller's claims. Police Commissioner James O'Neill said he was, of course, concerned that no one had yet been busted. I know we're going to find out who did this and they'll be brought to justice, added O'Neill, who marked his second day succeeding former top cop Bill Bratton. 2 witnesses who saw a possible person of interest in the case were dining at the Crush Bar and Grill on 32nd Street when they noticed the man, sources said. They called 911 about 11 a.m. and were brought to one police plaza for several hours of interviews before the sketch artist was summoned, sources said. Passers-by in Chelsea described feeling under siege by an unsolved attack and threats of more to come. I feel afraid. My school is not too far from the explosion, said art student Kaz Chang, age 28. I am terrified that I may be next victim if it happens again around here. Neighborhood resident Ben Brooks, 34, said it was definitely unsettling not knowing who this person is or their motives. People are freaked out. But in a city this large, it would be like finding a needle in a haystack, he said. Retired mechanic Gus Handworker, age 61 of the Bronx, noted that New York is very vulnerable. There is so much room to do bad things. If it isn't a terrorist, it could be one of our legions of unhinged people, he added. So there's that article on the bombing. The next one is off of Fox News, and it says FBI beaches reopen after pipe bomb blast. Probe is ongoing. This is on the New Jersey Park, New Jersey. Jersey Shore beaches were reopened Sunday as an investigation continued into the pipe bomb explosion at a seaside community before thousands of runners were to participate in a charity 5K race to benefit Marines and sailors. Officials would not say if they believe the Saturday afternoon blast in Seaside Park was terror-related or had any connection with an explosion that rocked the crowded Manhattan neighborhood Saturday night, injuring 29 people. Special Agent Michael Whitaker, a spokesman for the FBI office in Newark, said state and federal investigators were canvassing the Seaside Park area Sunday and conducting interviews. He said travel restrictions imposed after the blast had been lifted. He declined further comment, citing ongoing investigation. New Jersey State Police also wouldn't comment and referred questions about the blast to the FBI. Appearing on Sunday, CNN Inside Politics with Jake Tapper, Governor Chris Christie said state police had some promising leads but no suspects. The Republican governor said people should not jump to conclusions about who may be responsible for the blast or what the motive was. Christie said that by his own definition, he personally considers the blast terrorism as well as a knife attack at the Minnesota Mall. No injuries were reported in the Seaside explosion. The race had been scheduled to start shortly before the blast occurred, but was delayed due to large numbers of people registering for the race and reports of an unattended backpack being found. Officials noted that the race had started on time. Good number of people would have been running past the area where the explosion occurred. The fortunate thing here in New Jersey is that no one was injured, Christie said. We pray for the people who were injured in those other attacks. Meanwhile, residents in Seaside Park hoped things would return to normal soon. Joggers, walkers, and bikers were out and about Sunday on the boardwalk and nearby streets. Some stopped to take pictures of the site where the blast occurred and of television trucks that remained in the area. It's the first time I'm leery of walking around and everything, borough resident Don Burnaby told the Asbury Park Press. I walked by the first set of garbage cans back there coming this way, and it was weird, but that feeling went away. You never get that feeling around here, ever. Another resident, Maggie Powell, voiced similar concerns. I have to admit, yes, this whole thing's pretty disconcerting. You don't think these types of things can happen around here, but something like this reminds you that it can happen anywhere, and it's sad, actually, she said. So there's that article. The next one that we have here is off of youngcons.com. It says Minnesota, whoops, flipping on me, there we go. Minnesota mall terrorist identified, media blacking out, he was Muslim, Somali male. The identity of the Minnesota man who went on a stabbing spree at the local mall has been revealed. His name is Dahar Aden, a black Somali male. He was killed by an off-duty police officer after knifing 9 civilians. Aden was heard shouting Allah Akbar. He was shot 3 times, fell, and got up only to be shot again. ISIS has claimed responsibility for the attack. So there, now you know. The next one that we have here is off CNN.com. It says ISIS wing claims responsibility for Minnesota mall attack. And it says The man who stabbed 9 people at the Minnesota Mall Saturday before being shot dead by an off-duty police officer was soldier of the Islamic State, according to an ISIS-linked news agency. The statement posted online Sunday by the Amaq agency follows a pattern of ISIS-related media claiming responsibility for what appeared to be the acts of individuals across Europe in the past few months. CNN cannot independently confirm this latest claim. We still don't have anything substantive, just anything more than what we know already, which is that this was a lone attacker, St. Cloud Police Chief William Bear Anderson told CNN's Jake Tapper Sunday. And right now, we're trying to get to the bottom of his motivations. The FBI is calling the attack a potential attack of terrorism. And this one goes on. There's a section here about community leaders fear anti-Muslim backlash, call for unity. You know, there's way more to this if you want to read about the attack at the mall. So you can pull that one up and read that one on your own. The next one we have here is off of barenakedislam.com. Canada, apparent terror attack by man with machete at Calgary's Marlborough Mall. No word of if it's Islamic terrorism. Severely wounded Calgary police officer made a last-ditch attempt to stop an allegedly armed and violent suspect Saturday afternoon, dropping him with a bullet. It was one of 2 unrelated incidents in the space of an hour Saturday where cop made the choice to open fire. And it's off the Calgary Sun, says Deputy Chief Trevor Darrochs said after hitting the suspect with taser failed and the suspect had struck the officer with a large bladed weapon, the lone officer shot the suspect inside a department store at a crowded Marlborough Mall in the city's northeast. The incident started moments earlier around 2 p.m. at a nearby LRT platform where police were called for reports of a man with a weapon fighting with several other people. Calgary police have confirmed an officer is in stable condition after sustaining severe injury in an altercation at Marlborough Mall's Calgary Saturday afternoon. Global News says Calgary police have confirmed an officer in stable condition after sustaining a severe injury in an altercation at Marlborough Mall in Calgary Saturday afternoon. The incident began shortly after 2:10 p.m. Mountain Time. One witness told Global News she was first aware of the problem when she heard shouting from nearby C train station and noticed a man who appeared to have a large knife fighting with a number of people. I was coming off the bus to go on the train and I saw an altercation, and all of a sudden a guy was chasing some people with a knife and ran into the mall, and a bunch of cops showed up. Not really sure what happened after that, but there was a guy with a big knife and he was chasing people, Caleb Perrin said. So there's the information on the Canadian thing. The next one we have here is off of Investment Watch. Haitian president exposes Clinton Foundation at a Trump event. Hillary tried to bribe me. This is proof. The Senate is speaking out to tell the truth about Clinton Foundation at a Trump event. The former president said that Clinton was trying to buy him. She tried to appeal to him and bribe him. She defrauded the people of Haiti. Or let me try that again. She defrauded the people of Haiti. He spent 4 hours with Bill Richardson to tell Bill Clinton not to invade Haiti. A week later, the embassy called him and told him that Bill Clinton has a messenger for him. He came and told him to sign with Bill Clinton and join his movement, and Clinton will make him the richest man in Haiti. He told him, principled man, and he will not sell out. He just challenged Trump to ask Hillary Clinton to publish the audit of the money they have stolen from Haiti in 2010. He's explaining it in every detail. There's a video on that if you'd like to watch it in that URL. And yeah, he basically is begging Trump to confront her during the debates next week. So what becomes this? I hope he has good security is all I can say. The way people disappear after outing them. The next one we have is off of, and it says Bundy defendants accuse Nevada courts of political lynching after viewing Discovery. In Nevada, men arrested for being present at the 2014 Bundy protest in Bunkerville, Nevada, are accusing the United States government of purposefully withholding discovery from the media because they don't want the public to see who pushed for the arrest and just how weak the government's case is against them really is. Judge Gloria Navarro, who refused to give any of the prisoners being held in Nevada a fair pretrial release, is suspected of biasing her opinion on a completely bogus narrative conceived by the government without even looking at the facts in the case. The defendants in this case feel she has political agenda that aligns her decision with the man who helped her attain the bench, Harry Reid. It serves her political masters to have the discovery shrouded in secrecy, a source has told me. You would be hard-pressed to find anyone close to this case that will tell you it wasn't just by chance that Navarro was chosen to preside over this trial. The fact that Judge Gloria Navarro was recommended by Senator Harry Reid and appointed to the bench by President Barack Obama moved attorneys for Cliven Bundy to ask Navarro to recuse herself of this past spring. After receiving and reviewing a good portion of the discovery, these men now say they finally understand why the government wants to keep it all a big secret and believe the once made public will raise many questions about just why they are being held without chance of being released before the trial. According to one prisoner, the discovery proves their ongoing incarceration is nothing short of a political lynching designed specifically to create the perception they're all guilty of committing a violent act so the judge can claim justification for keeping them behind bars. Divulge any portion of what they are seeing in the discovery. They certainly have no court order gag preventing them from voicing their reaction to it. The public needs to remember why Bundy Ranch happened in the first place, said one prisoner. We didn't all just show up in Bunkerville one day because we were mad about a cattle roundup. The facts are the same as they were back in April of 2014. The BLM was acting aggressively toward the Bundy family. They had snipers trained on them. They reacted violently and beat a man for taking photos of them. They set up an illegal free speech area. They were killing cattle and burying them on so-called public lands, and despite numerous warnings to back off by Clark County Sheriff Douglas Gillespie, Governor Brian Sandoval, and plenty of other state and federal officials, Daniel P. Love escalated his militarized response and refused diplomacy over the violence. This accusation by the prisoner is backed by numerous statements made by both Gillespie and Governor Sandoval during and after the time of the protest. In a statement made to Las Vegas Sun, Gillespie said he warned BLM special agent in charge Daniel P. Love that he had lost control of the situation and would only escalate it to violence if he did not stop the round. Love refused the advice of both the sheriff of Clark County and governor of the state of Nevada. Many people who knew Daniel P. Love says would not allow him to heed that warning. I think if anybody would look at how they handled the protesting with the use of tasers and police dogs, anyone who had been in policing would question those tactics, he said, and I believe that led to the heightened interest in escalating the situation. Douglas Gillespie. Federal prosecutor Stephen Murr would now like the courts of the public to believe that Dan Love and fellow BLM agents are all victims of propaganda and that the BLM did nothing to provoke a visit from the outraged Bundy family, which resulted in video released exposing their aggression, said one attorney working on the case. When the family approached the BLM that day, Ammon Bundy was tased 3 times. A recovering cancer patient and grandmother was violently thrown to the ground, and a pregnant girl was threatened by the release of a dog. That video is far from propaganda. It's the truth, and it speaks volumes about the speaks volumes about the mindset of the BLM. Evidence will clearly show that the Bundys were right about the BLM killing cattle and burying them in public lands, and that, coupled with numerous other violent incidents perpetrated by the BLM, is what caused the escalation in Bunkerville in 2014. To say that the BLM, Dan Love, are all just victims is simply not true. And there's a video that you can see. You can click on that link and look at the video. It says there has also been an unexplained number of plea deals connected to the case, and at least 3 men are now trying to back out of their deals after seeing the discovery. Jerry DeLumis, who recently took a plea deal on the case, has since changed his mind about that decision, saying that he was forced into the deal by the FBI. DeLoomis, who is married to State Representative Susan DeLoomis of New Hampshire, now says he buckled under the extreme pressure after the FBI threatened that they would go after the men who accompanied him to Nevada if he refused to take the deal. One of those men was his son. When DeLoomis asked Judge Gloria Navarro if he would be committing perjury when he lied under oath to say he was guilty, her response was not necessarily. So the judge presiding over this case encouraged the defendant to lie under oath. So much for the dignity of the Nevada bench. Much time has passed since the 2014 protests, and public memory may have faded, but the fact still remains. Sheriff Doug Gillespie told Cliven Bundy and the American people on the day of the protest that the BLM was leaving and the cattle would now be freed. When the Bundy family and the American people, accompanied by the media, came to get the cattle, they were met with the threat of being shot by Daniel P. Love and his BLM. Was Daniel P. Love once again defying the orders of the county sheriff when the people approached that gate? We think that's exactly what the discovery will show. According to an official statement by the BLM spokesperson in a report documented by the LLC, the BLM narrative is very clear. A highly volatile situation with heavily armed antagonists. Love negotiated a peaceful resolution, said Celia Boddington, who was serving as BLM's assistant director for community. When all is said and done, he was the person most responsible for ensuring that nobody got killed that day. While many are eager to play Monday morning quarterback, history will judge him kindly. In reality, Daniel P. Love was forced to leave the premises by a deputy sheriff at the gate after refusing a direct order to do so several times. Daniel P. Love said he was not leaving and that Ammon Bundy was not taking those cattle. He said all of this after Sheriff Dodge Gillespie had already told a cheering crowd that he had ordered the BLM to vacate the premises, and the Bundys naturally went to get their cattle, or at least what was left of them. Revised history may very well remember Daniel P. Love kindly, but those who stared down the barrel of his gun that day know the truth certainly will not. So there you have the information on the Bundy situation in Nevada. Then I have an inspirational for you. We'll get this to come up. Somebody sent me this and they wanted to keep their name out of it, but they thought that this might be an inspirational story, so I'll read it to you. I think you may agree. It says, after Flight 77 hit the Pentagon on 9/11, the following incident occurred. A chaplain who happened to be assigned to the Pentagon told the incident that told of an incident. It says, after Flight 77 hit the Pentagon on 9/11, the following incident occurred. A chaplain who happened to be assigned to the Pentagon told of an incident that never made the news. A daycare facility inside the Pentagon had many children, including infants who were in heavy cribs. Daycare supervisor, looking at the children, they needed to be evacuated. They were in a panic over what they could do. There were many children, mostly toddlers, as well as infants that would need to be taken out of the cribs or with the cribs. There was no time to try to bundle them into carriers and strollers. Just then a young Marine came running into the center and asked what they needed. After hearing what the center director was trying to do, he ran back into the hallway and disappeared. The director thought, well, here we're on our own. About 2 minutes later, that Marine returned with 40 other Marines in tow with a child, and the rest started gathering up toddlers. The director and her staff then helped them take the children out of the center and down toward the park near the Potomac. Once they got about 3/4 of a mile outside the building, the Marines stopped in the park, then did a fabulous thing. They formed a circle with the cribs, which were quite sturdy and heavy, like covered wagons in the Old West. Inside this circle of cribs, they put the toddlers to keep them from wandering off. Outside this circle were 40 Marines forming a perimeter around the children and waiting for instructions. There they remained until the parents could be notified and come get their children. The chaplain said, I don't think any of us saw nor heard of this on this day of the news stories of the day. It was an incredible story of our men there. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. The thought of those Marines and what they did and how fast they reacted Could we expect any less of them? It was one of the most touching stories from the Pentagon, and it's military, not the politicians, that ensures our right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's the military who salute the flag, who serves beneath the flag, and whose coffin is draped by the flag. If you care to offer the smallest token of recognition and appreciation for the military, please pass this on and pray for our men and women who have served and are currently serving our country, and pray for those who have given the ultimate sacrifice for freedom. So there's that inspirational article. Even in the face of tragedy and chaos, we can always offer a helping hand to those around us. You don't just step on the bodies to save your own skin, to get out of something. There's always somebody that can use a helping hand. And remember, someday it could be you that needs the helping hand. Do you want somebody to just step over you to or save their own skin? So there's your inspirational for the day. And again, I'll remind you that we have the news at noon here, Monday through Friday. And if I get any breaking articles or anything, I'll just throw them in. So you might want to click on that little wheel beside the subscribe button so that you get alerts, email alerts when I do shows, so that you keep up on everything. If you like what we're doing here, I'd appreciate it if you give us a thumbs up, and if you share the video on Facebook or LinkedIn or tweet or whatever. They've got a whole bunch of selections down there, so whatever you're on, share it so that the word gets out here, and we promote the channel. Because if I wanted to talk to myself, I'd just go talk to the face of the mirror. I'm trying to bring the word out to you folks. And I hope that everybody will enjoy their day. I hope it's beautiful where you're at. Go outside, kick off your shoes, stick your feet down in the grass, ground yourself, balance yourself, take a big, deep breath of fresh air, and enjoy being alive. Remember, you woke up above ground this morning. I appreciate you listening to us today, and we'll look forward to having you back here tomorrow at noon for the news. And don't forget to tell everybody that I got Barry at 2 o'clock on Wednesday. Bye.